everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Kayleigh McEnany here with my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Emily Compagno. Also joining us, Tomi Lahren, co-host of the Big Weekend Show. We can't wait for that this Saturday and Sunday. And host of Tomi Lahren is Fearless on Outkick. And Charles Payne, host of Making Money on Fox Business. Let's start here on this Friday. Jimmy Kimmel may be off the air, but the fallout from his suspension is growing and growing. Kimmel was spotted in Los Angeles for the first time since his show went dark. And there are protesters that gathered outside the lot of ABC's parent company, Disney, demanding that Kimmel be brought back. They're saying his suspension is an attack on free speech, even as we learn more about the financial implications of Kimmel's comments. The Wall Street Journal reporting on Disney's decision, saying that advertisers and affiliates soon called the network expressing concern about Kimmel's show. According to Nielsen ratings, Jimmy Kimmel Live had been on a steady decline for years. After a big bump in 2013, when he changed his time slot, his ratings, however, have been falling dramatically. I mean, Charles, look at that.
Yeah.
This is a business, and you see that it's just a steady decline year over year over year, and yet people are dumbfounded about this.
Yeah, you don't have to be a financial analyst to say that that's bad, right?
Right.
So, I mean, and here's the thing, and there's a group of people who actually say, hey, this was the perfect opportunity for Disney to make a move they probably wanted to make anyway. You know, looking at this chart, ultimately it's a business, right? And let's not forget, this is Disney. Disney stock, folks, was $197 a share in March of 2021. When they embraced the whole woke thing. They and now it's $122 a share. Think about that for a moment. This is 4 years later. We started today with the stock market at an all-time high. A company that was supposed to be invincible. They had the amusement parks. They have the movies. They have TV. It was supposed to be one of the most invincible blue chip names out there. A can't-miss stock. A can't-miss company. No one could beat them. And here they are. The stock is down dramatically as the rest of the market has soared. And again, that's the lingering fallout from getting involved or, you know, being on the wrong side of these things. So they've learned a pretty valuable, expensive lesson already, their shareholders. Those phone calls from advertisers, those phone calls from affiliates, it didn't take much to nudge them in this direction.
You know, Emily, and I really want to put this into perspective. You know, ABC is a network. They're on affiliates. They have a much broader potential reach of audience based on the number of TVs that ABC is available in, and you compare that to cable news, someone like Greg Gutfeld. Okay, Jimmy Kimmel averaging in August 1.1 million total viewers. Greg Gutfeld, 2.8 million, more than double, and Greg is on cable news.
Yeah, he's earned every single one of those viewers. I look at this simply as not only a business, but also as an at-will employment. And at the end of the day, if we are responsible for accuracy on air, and we are responsible, as we have learned many times over in the courts, for what our guests say also. So if you combine the two, the point is it's not just entertainment. There's no expectation or entitlement to employment if you are inaccurate and if you aren't serving your viewership. So we have the FCC chair coming out and essentially saying exactly that there's a disconnect between someone on air and the markets that they serve. But I think more importantly, what we saw is the climate, which was a plummeting ratings. We saw a host that invited half of the country to not watch his show because of political partisanship. And then we had on top of that an expectation that inaccuracies would fly, that anything would fly, when the reality is there is actually an expectation of excellence, of accuracy. So I'm not quite sure why freedom of speech comes into it, or those arguments, when this has nothing to do with the government whatsoever. This has to do with at-will employment and a contract that says if you aren't fulfilling your duties and if you aren't fulfilling the caliber of expectation for our viewership, for the clients we serve, then yes, sir, this is your last day here.
And by the way, there's a big difference between being in the middle of a newscast with live news and also, you know, a guest saying something crazy that you weren't prepared for, to having prepared remarks.
Absolutely.
And knowing that you're going to really, you know, he did this for a reason. I just don't think he got the expected result he wanted.
And Harris, the market started to speak. You had Sinclair saying, we're not going to broadcast this. There were dozens of individuals, affiliate stations, saying we want an apology from him. And then Nexstar. And then the Wall Street Journal reported this. Just listen to this sentence. So there's a demand of an apology. There's this call allegedly that took place with Kimmel. And then a person close to the show said that Kimmel was planning to say that his words were being purposefully twisted by some members of the Make America Great Again movement. So he had planned on going going on TV and doubling down when his bosses were reportedly saying it's time to apologize. You're going against the bosses.
Yeah, so I kind of bottom line this, and that is that $1.6 billion deal that's in the wings now.
Yeah.
And you've got a guy that we've all talked about just right now, wasn't rating the way he should have been. There were lots of things about him that probably put him, you know, as a target as a red line target on a contract. But he does have another show. It is Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. He did the anniversary show of that. I was looking for it on the schedule yesterday. I'm curious to see what they're going to do. Are they negotiating some kind of an out for him? That deal matters. What do you know about it?
I don't know about that deal. Honestly, I've never watched a single episode of Kimmel or any of those shows.
But
Not
the
a single episode.
$1.6 billion.
I mean, the number's high. All these numbers are high. I think that the thing, though, is that they want to right the ship, right? Because these have been lingered. These are mistakes they made. You know, this week, Cracker Barrel came out with the earnings. The stock dived on that, right? The point here is that these mistakes that these woke companies, particularly you know, in the entertainment industry, have learned a valuable lesson. I think for a while they thought maybe they can offset alienating half the nation by doing business in China. You know, I think that was Starbucks. I think Nike and Starbucks kind of felt like, okay, whatever we lose here, we'll make up in China and other places. That's backfired on them, right? Nike stock is in the toilet 5 years later. Starbucks is struggling. So, you know, you have to embrace your core audience and don't alienate them first and foremost as a business, really, as a communication business. It's it's Disney. I mean, this used to be like everyone would huddle around Sunday night. You know, I was always bittersweet for me because I knew I had to go to school the next day. But still, it was great to, it was part of Americana, and they pushed that away.
Tommy, and the key demographic is 18 to 49. It's young people. And he had cratered among young people. I mean, again, just looking at the average, 129,000 in August, comparing that to Greg Gutfeld, 327,000. Young people were saying, we don't want to watch.
Right. Well, to your point, Charles, I think it's really important. You know, as someone who grew up in the Midwest, in Middle America, I am the audience, right? My family is your audience. It's not people that live in New York City or LA that go out to nightclubs at night or who have fancy restaurants. It's people in Middle America who spend their evenings at home with their family, maybe on the couch. That's your audience. You've offended most of your audience. And it's not just Kimmel. If you look at the award shows, their ratings have been cratering for years. People don't want to watch that anymore because they don't want to be lectured. People in Middle America that watch for the prestige and the glamour, they don't want to be lectured about politics, all right? And also, I would say Kamala Harris's campaign, a $1 billion campaign with celebrities and lights and fun and joy and coconuts and all this, right? It didn't translate to voters because you lost Middle America. And not just the middle of the country, but you lost middle-class Americans. Kimmel lost them a long time ago. And then to hear that he wasn't even planning to apologize, that to me is the kicker. There's a lot of grace and mercy for people in show business if you just apologize and you even come off as maybe you kind of mean it. Yeah. But when you say, no, I'm going to say actually it's MAGA's fault again, I think that's where ABC took a step back and said, this guy is pretty disconnected from our audience, and he has no intention of reconnecting.
You know, Charles, there was in the Wall Street Journal report, 2 executives are the ones who said he would temporarily step down. Do you think he comes back?
It's 50-50, I would imagine. It's 50-50. It's hard to imagine that they will be able to curb his they will never be able to curb his internal hatred for half the nation. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to say, how can you contain that then? How can that not come out from time to time? Right. So he's a liability. He's a liability that's no longer financial. He didn't just get that way. But at one point, that was the hip thing. Everyone thought it would work. Everyone thought it was OK. And they've learned what's now a very valuable lesson. It looks like they finally learned that lesson.
It was once the hip thing. Well, it is hip no longer. And footnote on that is Jimmy Kimmel.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.